Good afternoon, Scott Redler, T3 Live. Welcome to today's recap. So another crazy day, right? What is it, Thursday? You would think that the last week or two heading into Labor Day, it was going to be quiet, low volume, and then bam, lots of volatility, which is good considering, for 7 months we had that horrendous, monotonous, I could think of 10 more words to describe it, range where, there was no volume, there was no interest. You had a bunch of computers trading with each other. Every time it looked like we were going to break out, we got, legs swept, and then every time it looked like we were going to break down for shorts, they rallied them up, and then finally, a hard break, which was great for guys looking to be short, guys getting out of the way, and then all of a sudden, boom, lower prices, lots of opportunities. So let's just go right to the chart real quick. Here's your S&P. There's that upper range. It was in here for so long, and usually when ranges resolve, they get a direction, and ranges are meant to make as many people frustrated as possible, so nobody, jumps on and makes the money. So even in here, they didn't want the shorts to get comfortable and make their money on a downside move. So anyway, all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. Let's just fast forward to where we are now because I don't have time to get into the specifics. You had your breaking of this trend all the way back from 2012, the momentum trend. Here's where it broke below the 821 200-day moving average. If you were you should have been out of the way. I was flat stocks as of last Thursday, thinking that we could break lower. Granted, it would have been better to be short, but that's not my strength. Still did decent in there, but my time to shine was into this dip, into Monday's down move, and then thereafter. So let's fast forward to where we are now. Okay, so this week I've been talking about the new range in the stocks. Here was your old range where it broke below. This was your by the crazy dip. And then here's where it held. Yesterday you had your strong close. Today you had some nice follow through. And now the question is, does it go back up and retest where it broke down from, or not? And how does it get there? I'm hoping that it doesn't go in a straight line because I feel like a lot of us who are kind of prudent, that were long, pretty much said, look where we came from, a 182. Now we're back up near 199. That's 17 points. Hard to be long here now, but kind of hard to short too. Here's where your old support is, which becomes resistance, which is one spot to pause at. But if they wanted to really trap shorts, they can continue it all the way up to this spot, which is closer to 204, and then obviously you have like this 202. So here you are now. I'd love to see it hang out in this range for a few days and then take this out, because if it goes quickly through this, I'm sure it's going to be hard to buy. And if we open up again tomorrow, I'm sure traders are going to probably look to fade it, thinking how far we came, but that can create another one of these little pain trades that do happen. Guys are trying to ask me, does this look like October? Think about what happened in October. That October, you had this V bottom, which is what has typically happened, in this market, where it took 2 days, it crossed, right here, and then you had a gap up. This gap up is the gap that took people's teeth out, because people who were shorting here and didn't cover said, oh my goodness, I'm going to get short there. Or remember, this reversal was finally the spot where people were like, okay, maybe we come back in, and then boom, kept going. So, it wound up following the 8-day all the way up, but this was a little different. This, took back the 200-day real quick. Here, it's a bit more broken. It's all the way up there. So anyway, with that being said, so just, don't think you could just blindly short. Today you had crazy action again. All of a sudden, it looked as if, the shorts were on the, look where I drew that line. Wow. Looked like, anyone who was short from yesterday, basically were on the ropes, and who knows if they were able to, I think they pretty much capitulated probably right there. If I was short from yesterday thinking we were going to get a failure like the day before, that's probably where most prudent guys covered. And if, I know I was long into this, I sold some, and then here was your tradable move if you weren't long overnight for a continuation, and you had a decent move when it took out this 197.64 to there. I actually, on the VTF, people saw me, starting to short over 198.5, thinking, okay, 198.5 to 200 or 250, I can cost average it and probably trade out of it, and wound up giving you a trade when this broke. Okay, right there, that was your first indication that maybe this could, get you some kind of pullback without really knowing what kind of pullback. So you go like this. Some were saying on a 5-minute, which This looked like you had a small head and shoulders pattern, the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder, 198.50. So that only gives you really $1.50 down into where we broke out from. I guess that was the first pause. It came in, boom. That was your measured move of that, which would have been a normal pull-in, but lately this market's so thin, it's not really that normal. Continued, boom, and then came into the gap, and then I guess that's when TV started talking about, oh my God, it's fading, oh my God, it's fading. People probably started getting short for complete failure, and then, here you had a 5-minute reversal, held higher, and then, right back to the highs. That's hard. Here if you were looking short, most guys probably covered into this. This was my move that I took because I was just happy to have that. And I actually tried to buy down there, and it felt hard. But anyway, with all that being said, the action has been so much better. At least when we broke last week, you had downside follow through. So that's what you want. Yesterday we closed strong, and you had an upside follow through. So with that being said, that's what traders need to make money. Things making sense. Unfortunately, a lot of our high beta go-to names are into these resistance areas and it's just hard to buy right now. Google, look at that move, wow. Google, we talked about this being the first stock to actually take out a pivot, and then it did pause here. I think some guys made money here short, but then it didn't really fall apart, and now we'll see what happens in there. Amazon, did a quick push, and it's got a crazy V bottom. This stock took out that 2-day pivot yesterday, so that gave you some clues that it was back in its leadership role. But at this point, I would not be chasing this thing as it comes back into the range. But also it's definitely a tough short. Guys are trying to short this today, and wasn't that easy. Now I guess we'll see if it builds above this. You can almost now, get rid of this. The question is, was this, an overthrow low? Meaning, did it V bottom to get people stopped out, get people trapped short to come back in? That's been the type of corrections we've had since 2011, where every time it looks like we're going to break down, usually it was after only a 4.5% correction from highs, it would V bottom and come back in and then make new highs. This time felt a little bit more extreme. You had a little bit more going on with the hard break in Asia and Europe, also getting a little beat up. So this did feel as if it could go deeper, and it did go 12%. And now the question is, what's the story here? Was that it? You go to the 15-minute chart. Actually, it didn't fill it. Let's go to the 15, because you do have some kind of island bottom here. If you go like this, let's see. Actually, it filled that gap, which is good. Let's go to the spiders here. Okay, you had this gap down, stayed down here, stayed down here, stayed down here. Okay, so some people who got out, were out. Some people getting short down here got trapped, and you gapped up. So it's still, this actually looks like like a bit of a cup and handle, right? I'd love it to stay in here for a little bit before going and breaking into that, and then from 188 back to, ooh, that'd give you quite a move to the upside. So it's going to be interesting. Again, packing and filling will be much better. Let it do some work above 195 and stay below 199.20 before attempting to get to 202 or retest the broken trend line. So what did the Qs do today? This group was the most powerful. This cleared the pivot yesterday first, so that gave you a nice move. Coming right to the 200-day, we'll see if it reclaims that or gets rejected there. All this resistance is, there's a wall of resistance there. So, you would think that the next trade would be, to, kind of fade into this spot. This was, prior support that turns into a resistance. So, I think traders would probably want to gap up, tomorrow into this zone to get some kind of, at least short the retest for something. But if it blows right through there, you're going to be in trouble. But anyway, this was your buy in the hole, held the top third of the range. Then all of a sudden, boom, this took it out. There's your follow through. Now we'll see if it tries to fill this gap tomorrow into the Friday. The IBBs, what are you doing? It also cleared the pivot. It's going to start to have some pretty big resistance from where it broke down from. So that's what's going to be happening here. The question is, these things could gravitate towards the retest. Oh, remember this head and shoulders pattern here where a lot of guys made money short right there, especially when it took out this trend right there, boom, 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 never got above it, just to show you. So this will be the next spot that, if you're still long, congratulations. I think that you have a great holding time pattern, and then this would be a spot that's going to be trouble. So the IWMs, I tried today, and I just traded it poorly. I figured that, that they would start to rotate to a little bit less liquid names, a little less, things that just to play catch up. So I was trying to buy it in here, thinking that most other indices all, pop back above the Monday high. We are, with the Qs already did it yesterday, and then the S&P was well above it. So that's why I tried to do that. I just didn't trade it well. Some of you guys are still in it. Congratulations. You do still have some room up to here for 1 or 2. So you'll see now at least we have some points of reference to trade above 112.38. Trade above that for a little while, then it could probably go to that. So we'll see. Netflix, very strong. Just be careful just blindly shorting this thing. Most people shorted it all day today. Some guys got let off the hook when it finally had that down move. But again, it wasn't much. This was at 117, 118, came back into 114, and then popped right back. If you didn't take it, or if you added down here, you were in some trouble. So, just take care. This is one of those chosen ones, and this one acts very well. At this point, it's a little hard to buy, but just don't short it or blindly short it. Here's when it took out the pivot, nice calculated long. Here's some follow through. And now it's getting right back into where it broke down from. So you would think it could pause here, but it's Netflix, so take some care if you're just blindly shorting it. Apple gave you some nice trades. First trade was it failed at that 112, and then it regrouped and held the gap, went again, and then at the end of the day, popped back up. It's coming right back into resistance here. This led the market Monday, gave you a nice inside pivot here, and now I guess you'll see, if it could maybe, look at this, maybe break this little descending channel here. It still has room to come back to where it broke down from, and the moving averages are up here. So it's been in the game with volume, which has made it much better to trade than when it was in this monotonous mess. And that's really the I guess the theme or the narrative is that the trade changed, and thank goodness, because that 7-month range was horrendous. At least now some volume came back to the market, some interest came back to the market. I know I had friends that were brokers. They were buying the market this week with clients. They're like, oh, we have a 10% correction. Let's buy some. So more people are involved versus just the computers versus computers. Tesla had a big move with that consumer report to play some catch up. Cleared this pivot. So this was this trade. This trade was you had the low, inside range, clear the pivot. Now where does it go? That's basically was my morning call thesis was what's going to trade through this pivot and how high can it go? And everything kind of did something a little different. What did Goldman Sachs do? Little lethargic, but it did trade above the pivot. So there was something there if you wanted it, and maybe it gets back to here. So at this point, the oscillator is probably plus 10 from minus 90, so we're no longer oversold. Asia had its first up day. If you bought the ASHR with me yesterday, because I tweeted about it, I went on the VTF, I'm still in some. It's a nice day. First strong day on the double bottom. I think it goes a little bit higher. I do think that Asia probably continues its bounce off of that last half-an-hour buy program. So that could also give us a little bit of a tailwind for tomorrow. Here's that spot. FXI, still has some room if it wants to come up and retest this spot here. Again, these broken sectors sometimes come back and just test prior support and get to it, or they break through it. USO had a huge day, just when everyone said it was going to 20, right? Now you have your first real rally attempt where, this took out the descending channel here, and now we'll see if it stays above. So some guys were looking for a bottom, and boom, that's huge on huge volume. XLE also, finally had a gap up. So now we'll see if it can hold this gap up, because we've seen this before, and continue. It took back the 8-day. Now you'll see if it takes back the 21-day. So some of these beaten down stocks and sectors, have some room to retest, bigger resistance, and then some of the go-to names that bounced back, led the way, but are getting into also resistance, but upper level resistance. So there's resistance everywhere, but you got to know where it is, and you have to know your sizing, whether you can take the pain. The buy in the hole, buy in the cheap, get the rubber band down is out of the way. Now some of these things need to prove that they could hold up and then continue. So tomorrow's Friday. It's been an unbelievable week for a lot of guys. Congratulations if you're in part of that, camp of having a great, almost 2-week time period from the break of last week to the bottom of this week to the back and forth action. And if you're not, start to use your resources better. Hope maybe subscribe to Redler All Access. I write a note every single day. It's got 20 different types of ideas on it. You have Off the Charts, which is also a great product. Cooper's been calling it really well. Lots of things to do, lots of resources to have, not at expensive prices. And with the volatility here, you want to make sure you're as prepared as possible to take advantage of it. Some guys made their year in the last week and a half, and some guys feel as if they missed out on everything or even got very hurt trying to go against the grain. Maybe they bought last week and hit it out on Monday. People did that. A lot of guys yesterday shorted that breakdown thinking we were going to fail and are now caught short. So the grass isn't green anywhere. Just be happy with what you're doing, take your trades, book some money, stay positive, and we'll see how we can navigate these things moving forward. Have a great night.